Hello everybody, John12 back here again with another video, and today I give you a review for Dragon Ball Z Dead Zone. Now, if you've not heard, or have not listened, or who have not paid attention to any of my fucking videos, essentially in my last vlog I stated that I was going to do a 14 days of Dragon Ball Z, and essentially what that is that starting March 29th and ending on April 11th, which is supposed to be the premiere of Fugatsu no F, retitled Resurrection F, I would give you a review for every single film leading up, starting with Dead Zone and ending with Battle of Gods, which I'll give a audio commentary for that specific movie. But nevertheless, I know today is March 30th. Essentially, I was supposed to do a review yesterday, but I was hijacked and put into and sent to the Keys for a small little vacation that I really didn't understand why we did, and I basically had to weasel my way out of it, Dexter my way out of it, if you will, and now I'm back home so I can give you my reviews on these Dragon Ball Z features. Nevertheless, this is the first ever movie dedicated to Dragon Ball Z solely. Of course, there's been prior movies dedicated to the Dragon Ball franchise, but this is the first one for Dragon Ball Z, and there's a lot of questions as to whether or not this is canon or not, and for me personally as a fan, I like to consider what it's supposed to be basically acting as, which is a prelude to the series Dragon Ball Z. It's essentially what I like to call Dragon Ball Z Episode 0 titled Dead Zone. That's what I like to call it. It's basically Episode 0 because it's essentially takes place in between Dragon Ball and right before the events of the Saiyan Saga, which is Episode 1 of Dragon Ball Z. And essentially, within this storyline, we get a lot of conflicting things like minor issues and inconsistencies that kind of debunked the idea of it being a prelude to the series. But if you cut those things out, it works perfectly. So, well, other than Battle of Gods, this one can also fit as canon, depending on your personal preference. But for me, I like to consider it as I retitled it basically a few seconds ago, which is Dragon Ball Z Episode 0 titled Dead Zone. That's what I like to call it. Nevertheless, if you've not seen this film, this review may contain spoilers, so please go check it out, buy it online, download it online, just watch the film, because this review may contain spoilers. Of course, the interesting thing about this movie is that it's not really my favorite out of all the Dragon Ball Z movies, but the one thing I can really, I guess, give it credit for is that giving us a villain that we actually get presented in the actual anime series, and that is of course the character that was created for this movie, Garlic Jr. Now, Garlic Jr. is of course the main antagonist for this film, and essentially he was featured in this Dead Zone feature, and then was given his own arc in the actual series, which took place after the Frieza saga, before the Trunks and Android saga, which was fucking awesome. It was very interesting to see that, and I was really kind of hoping that there was going to be like an ongoing thing that they did for the series. Like, wouldn't it be cool if like they just did that just for the sake of the argument? Like in between every single major arc, they have like a specific mini arc dedicated to a villain that we saw in the movies. Like, wouldn't that be cool, like, if they did that for, like, Broly or Cooler or something? I'm surprised they never tried to do that. And also, Garlic Jr., really? Like, out of all the characters, I would have never thought Garlic Jr. Like, Broly, sure. Cooler, sure. Lord Slug, hell. Janemba, fuck, okay. But Garlic Jr., that was a very interesting choice. But you have to give them credit for actually doing that, and that's kind of cool that the only character to ever be featured in an actual animated film for Dragon Ball Z got to be featured in the actual anime series. But nevertheless, Garlic Jr., who plays the antagonist for this film, essentially plays into the story as in the main antagonist, of course, and before the events of this movie, essentially Garlic Jr.'s father and Kami, who's of course the protector of Earth, essentially had this huge falling out over the status of being controller of the Watchtower and being watcher and protector of the Earth, essentially, and devised an entire demon army to take over the Watchtower, the Lookout Tower, after Kami, and essentially Kami and whoever the hell basically defeated him and was sent into the Dead Zone, which essentially is a flat-out ripoff of the Phantom Zone of the Superman universe, but because Goku and Superman share so many similarities and we're gonna let it go. It's okay. It's okay. It's influenced, inspired, if you will. But essentially, Dead Zone plays as the Dragon Ball Z version of the Phantom Zone, which is this interdimensional parallel, dimension plane where if you get sent into it, you can never come out. It's kind of like hell for the Dragon Ball Z universe, except you live forever and you just get stuck in it forever. You're just stuck. You're stuck in nothingness. That's essentially, it's like the fucking, it's not really hell. I don't want to say hell because there's already a hell in the Dragon Ball Z universe, but it's essentially like a purgatory of the Dragon Ball Z universe, if you will. And essentially, in the events of this movie, Garlic Jr. decides to gather up all the 7 Dragon Balls and summon Shenron so he can wish for immortality, so he can use that power against Kami and all of Earth for revenge of sealing his father into the Dead Zone. And in between all of this taking place, Gohan gets captured by Garlic Jr.'s minions, his misfit gang, if you will, who are titled Ginger, Sancho, and Nikki. Ironically enough, the most dumbest names for any kind of gang members, but it's Dragon Ball Z. We're gonna let it go. And on top of all this, Goku must also team up with his mortal enemy, his arch nemesis, if you will, at the time, Piccolo. They must team up together and take on Garlic Jr. And that's pretty much where the basis of this plot goes in. First off, I have to state this, that it's kind of like just the threat against Raditz done again. This movie was obviously done after the events of the Saiyan Saga, so they kind of knew what they were doing. But I really thought it was kind of weird that they did this again, just for the sake of having a feature for it. Of course, it's the first ever Dragon Ball Z movie, and when it was presented, it was just presented as Dragon Ball Z. It didn't really have a title yet. But at the end of the day, I just find it weird that they kind of just did the Raditz thing, except they took out Raditz and they gave it a new kind of plot twist. Like, it was just taking what Toriyama did with the manga and what Toei Animation did with the anime, and just did it again, just for a movie. And it works and it doesn't work, because there are some plots where it's like, okay, it's the end of the day, you won, Goku and Piccolo team up and they have this humongous win against Garlic Jr. and they're going home. He saved Gohan, but it's like there's no real threat after that. There's not really any kind of thing that takes place after that. It's kind of like you win and it's the end of the day. Day is saved because Goku has won this one, or technically Gohan, which I don't really like about the Dragon Ball Z movies, because it has the same kind of formula that was started with this one movie, with the exception of Battle of Gods. Battle of Gods is the only one that really did something different, which was good for a change. But that's the one thing I kind of feel weird about it. But there are a lot of really awesome things that go into play with this movie, of course. You have Piccolo and Goku teaming up again, which is always awesome. I love the design of Goku in this movie, because it's basically taking his Dragon Ball kind of feel, but giving him the design of what we see in Dragon Ball Z. Like, he has the same outfit, of course, but he also has the power pole, which I always thought was a big downfall that they didn't use in Dragon Ball Z. Like, granted, Goku in Dragon Ball Z is wildly and dangerously more powerful than how he was in Dragon Ball. So he didn't really need a lot of the things that he used, like the Flying Nimbus, which he used only a few times over the course of Dragon Ball Z. And, of course, the power pole, he really didn't need that. He didn't need the fan. He didn't really need any of that shit. But it's just cool to see him use it just for the sake of seeing it, It's just really cool that you get to have this humongous fight where he's taking on all of Garlic Jr.'s minions, and he's fighting and kicking ass, and he's using the power pole to his advantage. It works. And I just find surprising that in all of the manga or any of the anime, like Toriyama or Toei Animation or nobody actually thought, why don't we just let him just use it just as an arsenal, kind of like Batman's utility belt. Just let him use it just for the sake of it. But of course he's extraordinarily more powerful than any of his weaponry, so it doesn't really matter, but it would just been cool that we got that in this one film. And of course there's a lot of comedy that goes into play with it. There's a lot of really interesting psychedelic moments, like Gohan when he eats the fruit, and he basically goes into this psychedelic daze where he's running around all of Garlic Jr.'s temple or palace or whatever the fuck it is, and essentially seeing all this crazy nonsense and having adventures with giant fucking clocks that make no sense, and these dinosaurs or whatever the hell. It's so funny and awesome. and just hysterical to see all these things come into play. And of course, the Krillin moments is just hysterical. There's just a lot of really funny moments. Like I stated this before, and I'll say it again, that basically Dragon Ball Z is Dead Zone is essentially the comedy of Dragon Ball, but the action of Dragon Ball Z, which is just a good combination. And I think they did a great job with this one movie. Of course, Garlic Jr. as a threat, I don't really think worked. Like, he had a great design. I like the design of Garlic Jr., especially when he, when he gets stronger and, like, becomes his, like, final, kind of transformation, if you will. When he transforms, essentially, and takes on Goku and Piccolo simultaneously. He looks fucking badass. He's fucking killing it. But I don't really felt that he was that much of a threat. I don't really see him as a threat. I mean, yeah, he has the power to create the Dead Zone, but there was never really a moment in this movie. Maybe I have to watch it again, but essentially there was never a moment where I felt like he was a legitimate threat where he was going to take on the Earth. Because there's like a large portion of this movie, well, not a large portion, but like a specific portion of this movie where, like, Garlic Jr., he gets immortality. He has it. He's wished for immortality and he got it. He's probably like the only character in all of Dragon Ball Z who ever got immortality in the series, other than like Lord Slug or whoever the fuck. He got it. He won. He got the power, but he never did anything with it. He had like this plan that he was gonna like take down Kami and kill him and kill Piccolo or whatever the fuck, or like he thought he did. But that was it. Like, what was he gonna do? Like, what was he trying to accomplish? I never really got the sense that he had a real legitimate plan. Like, what he wanted to do was kill Piccolo in a really stupid way, and simultaneously possibly killing Kami, because they're, of course, in this time and place in the Dragon Ball Z franchise, Piccolo and Kami are linked at the hip, essentially, through their lifelines. And if you kill Piccolo, Kami dies. Okay, I get that. But essentially, after that, he doesn't really do anything. He just gets immortality, and he's like, okay, well, I'm just going to live life like a king for the rest of my days. Kind of like that other guy, the other fucker, who I don't want to mention. The Pilaf Gang, essentially. He's going to be like Emperor Pilaf. We're going to just live like a king, live forever, fuck it. That's essentially his goal, which I don't really feel is right for Dragon Ball Z. Like, characters, like villains in Dragon Ball Z, they want to be kings, but they also want to destroy at the same time. And Garlic Jr. is like the only real legitimate villain in Dragon Ball Z, or in any of the movies, where he gets the power and he wants to live the rest of his life like a king, but he didn't really do anything with it, which I always felt was odd. But at the end of the day, this movie is definitely awesome. I love it. It's not my favorite Dragon Ball Z movie, but the action is great. The psychedelic scenes with Gohan is hysterical and awesome. I just love that kind of feel. Like the dream sequences that you have with Gohan early on in these movies are really fucking awesome, and you really don't get them after that. So it's kind of good to enjoy them as they are. And Garlic Jr. as a villain, I don't think really worked. I give him kudos for like coming up. I give kudos to them for coming up with a cool design for Garlic Jr. But once again, I just don't think he's my favorite DBZ villain, especially for the movies. And there's also tons of great action sequences. Goku taking on the fucking Garlic Jr. gang. He's teaming up with Piccolo. I love that whole situation where they defeat Garlic Jr. in battle, or supposedly take him down, and they have this moment where they're like, they have a standoff, and they're like, okay, well, it's time to go down. It's time. We defeated this fucker, but now that I'm face to face with you, it's time to kill you. And I love that moment. That's like my number one moment that I love in this movie. And like Garlic Jr. just comes up and he's like, you think it's over? You think it's not done yet. The movie still has a lot of portion, and you're dealing with this stupidity here. It's hysterical, but also badass moment that I love. And I guess that's the only real thing, other than the action sequences and the Gohan moments, that I really love about this movie. But overall, it's not really my favorite movie out of the DBZ series. Garlic Jr. is definitely not my favorite villain. I don't really understand why they gave him a spin-off in the actual anime series. But kudos for them for doing it, I guess. I wish they could have done it for more characters, especially more badass characters like Broly. But nevertheless, this movie is definitely awesome. It's definitely a good starter, a good like kickstart to an eventual franchise that inevitably happened for the DBZ franchise, the DBZ series, if you will. So at the end of the day, I have to give this a good 6 out of 10. It's a good fucking movie. It's a good, solid movie. It's a good, interesting, fun, entertaining Dragon Ball Z movie. It's a good kickstart to a Dragon Ball Z, binge, if you will. If you're ever going to go on a binge for Dragon Ball Z stuff, start off with this. It's a good prelude. It's not only a good prelude to the eventual franchise of feature animated films, but it's also a good binge starter for like the actual series, because I like to call it, episode 0. It's a prelude to the series. Of course, there's minor differences like Piccolo knowing Gohan and Goku realizing that Gohan has like this hidden potential hidden inside him, this humongous power that he never really gets to achieve later on in the series. But other than that, it's definitely a good, interesting, awesome movie. And Garlic Jr. is probably like the first ever villain in all of Dragon Ball Z to ever actually use the Dragon Balls, summon Shenron, and actually get his wish, which no other character really got. Vegeta never got it, Frieza never got it, Cell really had no purpose of getting it, nor did Majin Buu. But he was the only real one, other than Lord Slug. But nevertheless, that's been pretty much my review for it. What do you personally think about Dead Zone? When you go back and look at it and watch it as a feature in comparison to all the future Dragon Ball Z stuff, and also comparing it to the series or the manga series, what do you personally think about it? Dead Zone. What do you personally think? What do you think about Garlic Jr.? What do you think about everything that happened in the film? What do you think about the Dead Zone? What do you think about Garlic Jr. being featured in the actual anime series? Just let me know what your personal thoughts are on Dead Zone. And for me personally, I think it's good. It's not my favorite, but it's definitely a decent starter to Dragon Ball Z. It's definitely a decent flick. It's awesome. Nevertheless, this has been my first review for Dragon Ball Z, and next up will be, of course, the World's Strongest, and then I'll move on from there. But overall, every single review will be day by day, with the exception of today. But overall, at the end of the day, I want some feedback from my DBZ subscribers, because for my Battle of Gods commentary, I want to do one of two things, which is a audio commentary of Battle of Gods, which I'll do myself and upload later. But 2, I really wanted to do like a Google Live event about it, like have all the subscribers who are subscribed to my channel and who are fans of DBZ or hardcore fans of DBZ, and we can just sit down, watch the movie together, talk shit about the movie, talk about our favorite moments, talk about parts that we didn't really like, and talk about our anticipation and overall expectations for Fugatsu no F or Resurrection F. Let me know what you personally think about that. If you want to be a part of the show, comment below, let me know so we can make it happen. But nevertheless, if I don't get any actual feedback on it, then I'll just be doing my original idea, which is just to give you an audio commentary on Dragon Ball Z Battle of Gods. But nevertheless, this has been my review for Dragon Ball Z Dead Zone. Next up, I'll be doing World's Strongest. Hope you guys enjoyed. Subscribe to my channel if you've not done so already. And this has been John 12.